Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. The weekend is finally here, and we're doing another live stream. Today, we're going to be creating ruins, and we're going to be doing it in just 15 minutes or less. Now, if you feel a little discouraged or a little turned off by a 15-minute challenge, it's totally understandable. Little disclaimer, stick around for the process, because whether or not you want to make a map in 15 minutes or you want to make a map in 4 hours and you want to shave it down to 2, process is how you do it. So stick around for the first part so you can check out the process. And when the time challenge comes up, feel free to take off, because I don't want you to feel intimidated by any of that stuff. So focus on the process, all right? Okay, hey everyone in the chat. Hey, first time chatter Victoplasma. Glad that you are here. So we're going to be making something not too dissimilar from the ruin that you see right here on my screen. I'm going to show you all the tips and tricks on how to make a ruin really quickly. Whether you want to take 15 minutes to do it or if you want to take an hour, it doesn't matter. This process is really condensed and it gets things done so quickly. So I'm really excited to be sharing that with you. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. First, I'm going to create a new map. As always, I recommend that you use a lower editing resolution if you don't have a high-powered machine. My machine is pretty good, so we're going to go with 4K. You get to label the map right away, which I love. Hey, everybody. Glad to see so many friendly faces in the chat. We'll call this 15-minute ruins. Now, as with every time challenge that I do, you always have to be realistic about scale. And so the standard default for landscape is 40 by 30 tiles. But what we'll do is we'll go over to custom and we're going to split that in half. So instead I'll go 20 by 15. Remember, we're only working within a 15-minute time frame, so we don't have enough time to make the entire Feywild, right? How many times am I going to catch my T-stream in one day? This has got to be a record. Thanks, Boggle Boy. Boggle Boy. All right, so I think I got everything I need here. 20 by 15 is a realistic scale for the time frame that I'm working with. If you have more time, then you can just leave the default scale. So that's just up to you. And right away, I'll probably just turn off or turn on the grid so that I can kind of see it. I'm going to be using it as a guide for scale, so I'll leave that on. And the first part always is doing some pre-planning. Something that I noticed a lot when I was making maps is that I spent a lot of time doom scrolling through the catalog. You know, Inkarnate has such a robust catalog, and so it's so big, and so you end up scrolling through looking for everything. And I kind of noticed that that took up about half of the process of map making. And I thought, well, why not do that process in the beginning? Pick the stamps in the beginning, and then I noticed that my workflow after that was so much smoother. I wasn't put off by looking for 20 minutes for a stamp that I couldn't find, or I got the tag wrong, or I misspelled it. That was very frustrating. So picking your stamps in advance is a great way of speeding up your process. So we're going to go over that. So the way that I pick stamps, textures is on the theme. The theme is a ruined building, right? And so what I'll probably want to do is I'm going to choose the shape tool to make the outer walls of the structure. And so I'm going to use the shape tool. So I'm going to pick some texture of my choice or a stamp of my choice. I think I'm just going to pick ruin because it already has some artifacts in it that make it look kind of ruined. So I think that's a good choice. And there's no reason to do a fill. Normally I would do a fill with a clipping mask, but because this is a ruin, you want the indoor and the outdoors to mesh into one, right? You don't want there to be an extreme contrast between the inside and the outside, because a ruin has fallen apart and some of the outdoors has claimed the inside, right? So it's good to not worry about using a clipping mask here. So now that I've picked that looks good. What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and place it down just to see how big it is. Remember, we're using this grid right here to represent 5 square feet. So that's going to be a massive wall. So I should bring the scale down a little bit. And as always, you want to favorite, because that way you're not going through this massive recently used. So I should select this, go to favorite, and then see it's in my favorites here. Because what happens is if you use too many different shapes, what will happen is it will disappear out of recently used. And so it's no longer accessible to you. And so you'll have to you'll have to either click a shape that already has those settings. And if there's not one, then you'll have to recreate them manually. And that's frustrating. So instead, focus on favoriting all the things that you're going to be using. So right there, see, that's in my favorites. And I'm also going to want to do the same thing with the line tool. I want to create interior walls. And I think I'm going to use stone as well. So I'll just use this right here. I'll go over to my favorites. I see I have one here. I'm going to quickly delete that. And then I'm going to go ahead and just place it just to make sure that I have the settings right. Yeah, that looks about right. I'll probably have the outer walls be thicker than the inner walls. So I think I have that. Let me make sure that that is favorited. Cool. So we have our walls set up. That's perfect. What we should also do is touch base on a bunch of things that you would find in a ruin. For instance, a great place to start is a tag called rubble. Once you type in rubble, you'll see there's this whole array of stamps that you can choose from. And we're going to take a couple from this tag right here. One of them is going to be this rubble right here. I'm just going to go ahead and just place it right there. So we have rubble. I'm going to go ahead and favorite that. You see I have quite a few here, so I have to delete these. It's been a busy day today. I haven't had a lot of time to do pre-planning. There we go. So recently used, I'm going to favorite this right away. So I have that rubble there. I'm also going to select this wood right here. Gray is a neutral color. And so any color that you put up next to it is going to pop in contrast because you have gray, which is neutral, and then this brown, which is in the more reddish type of hue. And because of that, it will work well with gray. So kind of keep that in mind. So now that I have that, I should probably add that to my favorites as well. We're going to add a whole bunch. Let's also add in these ones right here to my favorites. Let's do that. Let's also throw in maybe some smaller rubble. Let me see, do they have any smaller ones? Here we go, right here, big rubble. Yeah, let's go with this. We're going to do that, and we're also going to favorite that. Okay, this looks good. All right, and now we also want to think about some other things that are being included, like, remember I mentioned there's going to be the outside and the inside merging into one. So why don't we consider also adding in some vines with the line tool? If I just type in vine, I'll have that. So there's some vines right there. I'm just going to check the stroke size. That looks good. Let's go ahead and just favorite that right away. Oops, recently used. There we go. I'm going to favorite that. So vines looks good. Okay. I also think we should add in a couple other things that might look good. For instance, like maybe adding in like a little scene. It's always nice to have a focal point within your composition. So the ruin is not necessarily the focal point. There could be like maybe a bandit camp, or maybe a merchant is standing inside of it. Something that has a focal point inside of the ruin would be good. So we'll go to camp, and there should be like this campfire abandoned. I think that would be a good choice. So we'll favorite that one. Let's also maybe throw in maybe some rolled up bed rolls. What other things can be included in camp? Let's grab one that's been rolled out. I think that'd be a good one. Let's also throw in maybe a bag. That might be good. So if someone's staying there. And then I think also we'll add in a water skin. So let's favorite that. That looks good. Okay, so we have those. Let's go look over our favorites so we can see that we have everything. This looks good. Okay. Well, let's also go ahead now over to textures, and we'll probably add more stamps in a moment, but let's just kind of go over our textures here. What's really nice is that the BG layer already has that dirt as the base layer, and that's perfect because now I can paint on top of that. I don't have to change that default layer there. So that's good. Let's switch over to a grass texture. Let's favorite that and add that. I think we should also add another grass texture. I think there's an alpha. They're not called alphas anymore. I learned this myself, but I think they're called overlays. So if you type in like overlay, it should pop up. But there's this, let's see, this grass right here, this tall jungle grass. That's going to work great. Let's keep that one. Let's also throw in maybe some stone or cobblestone. We want to have something distinguishable from the natural textures to the unnatural textures, like stonework that's been added to the ground. So we'll do that. I think this one looks good because it's already got some grass built into it in the crevices of the stones. So that's a great choice. Let's add that one. And then I think we also should add in another overlay texture called cracked ground. It's going to work great because when walls collapse and things falls down, it kicks up dirt. It, moves things. It causes erosion. And so this ground texture right here, cracked ground, is a great texture. And overlays are king or queen. I can tell you they're absolutely fantastic because you don't have to do all this excess blending like you would with two other textures that are not supported by alpha, if that makes any sense. So these are always like your best friend using these overlay textures. Very, very helpful. And I have to get used to now saying overlay instead of instead of the other one. Okay, so I think that looks good. Let me just take a step back. All right. I think I've added in the majority of stuff. I think the other things I might want to add are maybe a torch. I try to add at least one light source in every map because a light source can play a huge role in the shadows. It plays a role in depth. So we definitely want to have that. So let's add in that. And I think also a light itself, not just the torch. And we'll add both the orange one and then we'll add a regular yellow one. Stacking light stamps is a great way of creating a little bit more dynamic lighting. I find it very helpful. All right, so I think there's enough to work with here. That only took like about 11 minutes or so. So not very much. I think we can add in maybe just a couple more things. Let's add in some logs, I think would be a good idea, especially ones like this one where they've been kind of chopped. And then maybe this one right here, this burnt one is good. Let's keep that one. And then maybe we'll grab a couple stumps. What works really nice is having a contrast between trees that have full foliage and trees that don't have full foliage, right? It's a stump. Contrasts are really, really helpful. So let's go ahead and add that one. Let's favorite that. Looks good. Okay. Everything is looking good. All right. I think I have everything. I think I'm just going to quickly save it just because I don't want to get too nervous. Usually I do a lot more changes before I save, but for this one, we'll do a quick save, and we're going to get to talk a little bit about architecture because this is something that I see a lot of people kind of get confused about. Some people ping me and ask me like, how should I set up like the floor plan of a building and whatnot? I mean, I think the most obvious one is to go use some kind of reference image. But if you don't have the time for that, or you kind of want to make your own, I can give you some tips and tricks on how to make convincing and interesting architecture. Let's go ahead and turn snap to grid on. Let's make sure the shape is set, stroke, and I want to make sure that I turn merge shapes on so that when I place them, they'll merge. So a great place to start is just starting with a basic shape like a rectangle, right? So I'll use the snap to grid as an option. So I have that there. So here is your first thing. And then from here, you can start changing up the shape by creating like pop outs, right? You can always do these interesting choices. One of the easiest ones I think that's really, really helpful is to create a stairwell tower, and not just a square one, because you see you already have a square or a rectangle shape here. You can break up all these 90-degree angles with a curve. This is a common art principle. Contrast, straight lines, 90-degree angles versus curves. So if I go into this corner right here and I create, oopsie, it's a square. Get my shapes right there. If I add a curve to this corner for a stairwell tower, you'll see that it breaks up the straight 90-degree angles that you have here. So already we're having a nice shape. The other things you can do are pop-outs, like I mentioned. For instance, a pop-out would be something like maybe a vestibule to get inside of a structure, like this. Or maybe you want to have it on a corner, like this. Or maybe you want it to be right here, like this. Okay, but a pop-out, these little pop-outs are a great way of making the architecture more interesting instead of this rectangle with a circle on the corner of it, right? So very, very helpful to do that. So I might want to consider maybe adding like a little vestibule piece right here so that people can kind of go in. Oops, I kind of want it to be evenly across. So let's maybe go with 4 by 4. There we go. So that way there is some symmetry here. That's going to be helpful later. So now once you have the basic shape right here, once you've kind of put that basic shape together, you can start breaking that up by using the portal tool or the portal option, right? So if I go over back to shape and I type in portal right here, portals, and the great places to add broken segments are as follows. For starters, it's great to have just one open corner, like one corner piece like this. I think this is always nice just to have one corner piece that's broken off from the other walls. That's always a nice aesthetic. Another thing you can do is just have a complete opening in a wall. So like this, we can just remove maybe a whole segment. Oopsie, I keep using the wrong tool here. We can move the whole segment like this and have a whole segment of the wall missing like that. And let's also break up a corner to where there's no corner at all right here like that. You see, so some good locations for you to break those things up. Now, I also want to bring the size back up a little bit. The outer walls are generally going to be the thickest because they're the ones that are supporting most of the structure, right? So you're going to have thicker walls. They need to be sturdier. They need to be able to handle the elements. So outer walls are generally a little bit thicker. And they're a stronger material. They don't have to be wood. They can be stone, whatever it might be. But generally, the outer walls are a little bit thicker. So when you go to switch over to your inner walls, you can make them a little bit thinner unless you want to show that there's a second floor above you. Then you would have thicker walls on the inside because it's showing that there is a foundation or support for a level above it, right? So just keep that in mind. But what I will end up doing here instead is I want to create an interior segment to where there's a hallway that goes around, and then there's this interior part where you go inside. And so what I'll do is I'll go back to shapes. I'm going to turn merge off because I don't want it to merge here. And I'm going to go ahead and just place a square piece just like this, like that. And then I can break this up. I'll go ahead and break some pieces. Let's go ahead and break the opening right here. And then we'll break another corner. Let's maybe break this corner right here. Let's go with right about, let's go there. And we'll break up that corner. Let's go up a little bit more this way. There we go. Break that corner. And then let's maybe break up this corner right here. Oh, I already see that there's one right there. Let's maybe move it. You know what? Let's move it over to here. There we go. Okay. So now we have that internal part that kind of goes in right there, right? Yes, it's not a giant ruin. It's pretty small. Okay. So now that we've kind of done that, let's go ahead and just move this up a little bit. I'm trying to get some space in here. That looks good. There we go. All right, that looks good. Now, what's super cool is that you don't, if you're, just a kind of a side note, if you're using a VTT and you have gridless movement, which is awesome, you can totally rotate the structure so that it's not perfectly kind of flush with the corners. And that's another way of creating contrast. So I don't recommend doing this if you don't have gridless movement on your VTT. I think most of them do that I know of, but it's just so much easier to navigate without gridless movement. So because some people get upset and they're like, well, I want it to be lined up with the grid. That's fine. Totally understandable. If you don't have gridless movement, that makes sense to me. But all right, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, this looks good. I'm going to show you another cool trick on showing a little bit of depth on the walls. So what we'll do here is I'm going to select all of this and I'm going to bring the brightness of the stone down a little bit because this is going to be the base level of the wall. What I can do is I can go in now with the line tool and make segments of the wall that are higher up than others. And the way to do that is just to use a lighter variation of the texture. So if I throw down, let me turn snap to grid off. If I put down this stone piece right here, let me go ahead and mess with the shadows a little bit too, so that way it kind of pops out more. If I add these shadows here, you're going to kind of notice, you can kind of notice that this segment pops out and it looks higher up than the darker segments. So if I create a series of these, I can create this illusion of these different tiers. So in other words, these walls aren't just completely cut off all at the exact same height. There's a varying sense of height with the walls, and I can show that later too when I decide to start adding shadows, because that will play a huge role. So now I should just go through and just start adding in some of these segments, these brighter segments. Like maybe I want to have this corner right here be a brighter segment right there, or maybe I want to have this segment right here be a little bit brighter, right? So then I can go in and make some smaller segments and make them even brighter to show that there's even a second level, there's a third level of height going on there. So I can maybe add this piece like right here, like that. I can copy and paste, add another piece like maybe right here, like that. I see that there's those caps on there, and we can also remove those caps if necessary. It looks kind of weird having those caps there, honestly. So we can probably end up removing those. But using that really, for me, is the best trick that I know of kind of creating these varying sense of height, because all the ruins that I generally make seem so flat at the top. So using contrast to show varying levels of height is a great trick here. And we'll emphasize more of that using shadows, okay? All right, so I think what I should do is add it in a couple more elements. For instance, I want to add some staircases. One way to show more varying height in your builds is to add staircases, right? Stairs imply that there are multiple levels on your build. So it's always nice to add stairs to any of your builds, whether it's a ruin, a tavern, or whatever. Stairs are important. So if I just type in stair here, probably should have added this before, but it is what it is. Let me go ahead and add in, let's go add this one right here. What I'll do is I'll just go ahead and just place it down real quick to see what it looks like. Let's go ahead and bring it down a layer. And I think what I'm also going to do is I'm going to bring the opacity or change the saturation of all of these so they're all the same gray. Because I'm noticing there's an inconsistency in color going on here. And so to fix that inconsistency, what I'll do is I'm probably going to select all of this stuff, and I'm going to go over to the settings, oopsie, my mistake, right here, and I'm going to desaturate every single one of these things so that they're all gray. This way there's all a consistency in the color there. I'll desaturate it. That looks good. Let's also, oopsie, I see some of these got a little bit darker than the others, my mistake. We'll go ahead and bring these down a little bit. My mistake. There we go. Okay, that looks good. Okay, and this needs to be bring down in brightness a little bit. And I'll make sure to add this to my favorites as well. There we go. And let's also turn off the shadows. We don't need these. Yeah, we don't need the shadows. There we go. And we'll have to adjust that later. But see, now they're starting to see that there's some stairs kind of growing here. These stairs right here. And this is going to create this extra sense of depth because I really just don't like having a flat map, right? When you have varying levels, it adds more depth and it adds more combat capabilities, right? Let's say you're being chased by bad guys or enemies and you're going up the stairs. You can then turn around and use that height advantage, kick them and watch them all trip over each other. Or a barbarian picks up a rock and chucks it at their head and they do extra damage as they go down the stairs, right? So height is kind of an extra bonus that I think that is really helpful in almost any encounter. So height plays a big deal. I really enjoy that myself. So I think that staircase looks good there. We've got that there. I might want to consider removing some of the caps. So I'll just select all the lines, go back into here and delete caps. You know, I think that looks a little bit better. I kind of was not enjoying the caps there. They were looking kind of wrong to me. So we'll just go ahead and remove those. Let's go ahead and add in a couple more of these pieces. Let's put one right here. Copy, paste, put another one right here. There we go. Kind of coming together. Let's put that one right there. There we go. Okay. So we have some taller pieces there. That looks good. All right. Is it possible to make some of the stairs be broken? Yeah, clipping masks. But I think there is also a broken stair, by the way. Let me look that up real quick. I actually would prefer to use the one that's already broken up. Maybe in another stream, I'd love to cover that in more detail. Because, yeah, and in fact, when 2.0 comes out, you can just use clipping. You can just clip out an entire layer, which I'm looking forward to. I've been using that a lot for like hiding the tops of pillars and stuff. Very, very helpful. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there you go. So there's a broken one right here. And thank you, by the way, Pedro. I actually, in the original picture that I made, I actually used used a broken one. So silly me for not using that. Okay. All right, that looks good. Let me get the good. Okay, let's go ahead and put together the staircase. There should be a circular stair. Let me just kind of look over real quick. Let me expand all the assets. Sometimes it's difficult to find it when you're scrolling through, so I expand all the assets so I can see it. Let's see here. Where is that one specifically that I'm looking for? This right here should work fine. In fact, let's use this one because it's got some darker like shadows built into it, so that looks good. We're going to desaturate that one. Rotate it right here like this. And then we're also going to use a pillar on top to represent the foundation pillar for the staircase. So let's go to pillar here. I can't stress enough how helpful stairwell towers are, right? They really take up, they really help to not take up so much room with a staircase within your structure. That's why I always generally have a circular staircase in the corner there. They're perfectly set up that way. Look at the way the staircase is cut out on that corner like that. They're perfectly designed for that. So it's great to have a stairwell tower in your build. Okay, I think that looks good. Okay, I think from here we put overall the entire ruin together. So we can go ahead and group the whole thing, and we're going to call it ruin. I see that I've been blabbing so much, we're running out of time here to create, so we're going to call it ruin. That part's done. The next step is I'm going to rotate it because I do want to have some contrast. So it's a nice rotation here will make it look a little bit nicer. What we'll do here is we'll start applying some textures. And the way that I kind of do this is that I would bring the opacity down. I would change the texture scale as well, just to make sure that it's not too big or too small. I think that looks just fine. And what I'll do is I'll bring the opacity down to around 46%. And what I'll do is I'm not going to paint right underneath where the walls are. I'm just going to do a little operation and just paint right before I get close to it like this, because what we want to do is we want to take advantage of that dirt texture underneath of us, right? Why have to repaint the whole thing and then you've given yourself extra work? By using the brown underneath in your blending, you're actually saving yourself a little bit of time. So it's always nice to have a dirt layer underneath to act as your base layer, right? We're also going to apply some of that other texture. I'm going to go back to favorites here. Oop, that stone I think is a good choice. Let's bring the opacity down a little bit. And then right where the wall is, I'm going to apply that texture just right underneath of it. Like that. There we go. We're just going to apply a little bit of that. Don't forget to don't do too much. You want to be able to keep some of the brown texture underneath, right? That's all part of the blending. And then you can create entire spots where there is this texture as well. Let's put some in that corner there. One right here is a good location. And then let's put some on the outside as well. There we go. A little bit over here on the outside, a little bit here. Right there looks good. All right, that looks good. Okay, I think that looks good. Let's go ahead and turn the grid off. I don't think I really need it anymore. There we go. You can kind of see it without the grid. Let's go ahead and continue adding more stuff. For instance, I want to add cracked ground. You're going to have to change probably the size of this one. Let's bring the scale down. About there looks good. And again, right where I see a collapsed wall, like right here, that's a good place to add it. There's a collapsed part of the wall right here. Let's add in that cracked ground. Let's add in a more cracked ground along here. Just wherever you see a broken part of the wall, it's a great place to put this cracked texture, right? There we go. That looks good. Okay. All right. I'm going to quickly save this, and then we're going to go ahead and add in the rubble part. And it's not too complex where rubble goes. Wherever you see a missing wall section, where did that wall go, right? It must have fallen over and then collapsed and broken apart, right? So that's the best place to put your rubble stamps, is right in those openings where I use the portal tool on the outer wall, right? So that's a great location. So I should go back into favorites here and grab this. I'm going to desaturate it so that it's all gray. There we go. Let's turn shadow off. And whichever direction you want the rubble to face is the direction in which the wall collapsed, right? So if you're placing it right here, then the wall collapsed outward. Let's go ahead and just drop the contrast on that a little bit. There we go. That looks good. Okay, so we've got some rubble there. Let's go ahead and throw in another one right here like this. It fell over. Let's put another one right here like that. Let's put another one that went inward like this, and then a larger one that went right here. And then we can even have some be on the inside like that. It's okay to have some being on the inside. Let's add another one right like that. Okay, so a lot of the rubble is coming together. Let's go ahead and do this section right here. There's an entire segment of rubble here that probably needs to go there, right there. And there's another little segment right there. Let's go ahead and put it right there like that. And like there. Okay, perfect. So figuring out where rubble goes, not complex, right? It's just wherever the wall has collapsed very clearly, that's where you're going to want to put your rubble. So it's not complex stuff. All right, so let's continue adding more stuff. Some other things that you're probably going to encounter in your ruin is a collapsing of the rafters, right? The rafters are what hold up the roof, right? It's those A-frames, those beams that hold up the weight of the roof, right? And so to show that the building has collapsed, throwing in some wooden pieces is a great way to show that the floor or above has collapsed. So you can place these in a good location. So I can maybe put one right here. Let's maybe put it just right here in this corner like that. Let's actually move it away. Oopsie, my mistake. What I should be doing is, you know what? Let's select the entire ruin and let's bring it up to layer, let's say layer +3. I think that should be okay. And I'm going to lock it so I don't accidentally select it. There we go. Perfect. Okay, that looks good. All right. We'll go ahead and add our rubble here. I'm going to go ahead and turn the shadow off on that. I don't need it yet. Let's throw in another pile of rubble, maybe right over here. Let's put some of it on the staircase to show that the staircase is like collapsed. I think that's a good idea. And one thing I've noticed is that the wood is a little bit light. What I'll do is make it a little bit darker so that it should contrast more. Notice how a lot of the textures that I'm using are kind of light. By dropping the brightness of the wood, it becomes darker, and therefore it contrasts against the lighter textures beneath it. This is a great trick to make things pop out. Remember that trick: contrast, light and dark, height, fire, water, land, water. All of these things, these contrasts, are how you make a map pop out. Remember these principles, super important. Okay. All right, we got about 15 minutes left of explaining the process, and then we're going to do that time challenge. So now wherever I've added rubble like that, this wooden rubble, I should take some smaller pieces to transition between the ground texture and that stamp. And so the way that I'll do that is I'll just go ahead and turn the shadow off, and I'm going to bring the brightness down to where it's around the same brightness as this. And now I can just kind of place these and kind of scatter them. Remember, the most obvious place to place these would be right where the wooden rubble is, right? It makes sense. So we'll go ahead and throw in a couple pieces on the ground there. Let's put some over here that kind of traveled outside of the structure. We could even create maybe like a little path or a little trail of wooden pieces that kind of lead inward into it. So you can do all kinds of fun things. So those are nice to add in these nice wooden pieces here. The next step is, and I forgot to add this texture, there's one called twigs and stones. If you just type in twigs, it should pop up. But you'll see there's these nice twigs right here. That's a good choice to have. And I think there's another one called rubble as well. It's going to have the stone plus the wood. So that's a good choice. So I can go in here and just apply this rubble texture just right wherever you see the stone, that stone rubble, add it there, because that's going to add more to it, right? So what I'll do is I'll go in, and I'm just going to maybe create some nice rubble over here. Maybe some of the wall collapsed right here, and so we'll put that there. I see a nice spot right here to add in a little bit of rubble, and then another spot right here. There you go. So kind of add in those nice rubble spots where you see it. I think that looks good. Let's take a step back and just look at it. Yep, looks good so far. Liking it. We'll quickly save, and then we're going to do the last bits of details. For instance, we want to add a little bit of detail outside of the structure by adding a little bit of grass, maybe some stumps, some trees, and then we're going to want to add some details inside of the structure as well, even though it's not really an inside since much of the building has collapsed. All right, we'll let this quickly save here, or not so quickly save, I suppose. All right, there we go. Cool. All right, so let's go ahead and add just a quick details on the outside. Grass is always a great choice. I'm going to go to 100% opacity and just kind of place grass wherever I see a lot of the green grass already. So adding it in here, 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 here. And what we also want to do is add a little bit of grass on the inside as well, because we want to show the idea that it's a ruin, right? The elements have kind of taken over. So what we should do is go in, bring the opacity down a little bit, and then put some of the outside on the inside. Okay, let's go ahead and add a little bit of grass right in here. I think that would be a good choice. Yep, some grass there. Let's add a little bit of grass like right there. That looks good. Maybe some kind of coming in like that. So this looks good. And then maybe a little bit right here in that corner there and right here. That looks good. We want to make sure that we have some of that grass in there, and then I'll take that same grass texture I used before and just go ahead and place it right where you see grass inside. Now, when we take a step back, you'll notice that the inside and the outside are a little less distinguishable because of that, right? Okay, we got to get moving. We only got 10 minutes left, and I've been blabbing like crazy. So let's quickly get in the details, and then we'll do the light and shadow, and then we'll do the time challenge. Looks like I'm going to have to do it in 10 minutes instead now, huh? All right, so let's throw in some vines, because vines are a great way to add in some additional vegetation to the map. Let me go ahead and make sure that's set to the right layer. There we go. That looks good. Okay. And vines are a great traversal type of tool as well, right? Like players want to climb up on top of the walls, but there's no place to climb. Vines are a great way to climb on top and then look over the wall before your players decide to go into possibly a trap or whatnot. So I always have a little bit of vines, especially on the outside, though you can have them anywhere on the structure, but I like to usually just line them up a little bit, like in the corners. If you're going to have them some on the inside, that's fine too. Let's maybe put some here, around this corner here, here. That looks good. You know what? That was a little too much. Let's have it to where it kind of branches off a little bit like that. Let's add a little bit here. Here. Let me take a step back and just look at it. Yeah, let's put some right here along the openings so that they're a little more clear that they're openings. That looks good. Looking good, looking good. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and quickly add in the stumps. I'm going to go ahead and place them like a couple in the corner here. Let's put one here. I'm not going to put some inside the building. I think that would make less sense. But I'll just place a couple on the outside to kind of, I'm not sure how to describe it, but kind of frame the building so that at least there's some things on the outside. And I do recommend that you cluster some of your stumps together so it looks a little bit more natural instead of these equidistant placed stumps from each other. Equidistant looks a little odd unless you want it to look equidistant, like it's a plantation or something where there's meant to be an order to the plant being planted or whatever. I'm not sure. Plantation's probably not the right choice. Let's go ahead and add another one like right here. There we go. That looks good. So now we have some things on the outside, which is helpful. That looks good. Okay, let's go ahead and add one more texture that I want to add, and that is you want to create this type in texture. Type in try. It's been a long day. Yeah, it's been a long day. Okay, I'm going to use this dry grass texture because I find that this dry grass texture is very helpful for creating like foot traffic. Yeah, this can totally be available for download if you want it to be. I'll just add it to the the video description on YouTube. Let's go ahead and add this dry grass. So I'm going to add a little bit of this dry grass texture. And what's nice about this is this texture is very bright. And so it's going to create some nice contrasts for you. See this nice light texture. In fact, I'll even add a little bit of that underneath the tree, underneath where the stumps are. That's a good choice. This dry grass, see how bright that is? And it's really causing it to pop and contrast. And I really like that. Okay. Now we're going to get to the fun part, because right now the ruin seems very, very flat, right? When I look at it, there's not really a lot of height there, but using shadows is a way to make it pop out. So check this out. We can go to, because it's a 15-minute time challenge, I'm not going to use a bunch of shapes and all that stuff. I'm just going to use the top layer, and I'm going to use a particular blend mode. I'm going to use darken. And then this way, when I do apply these shadows, it will interact with the filters beneath it, because right now it doesn't work. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead. We're going to change to color top, and we want to bring the opacity to around 30% is where I go. And what I'll do is I'll start by choosing a light source where I want the light to be, and I'm going to kind of have it going in this direction, like that, going from left to right. That's where my light source is. So I'm going to start painting in shadows along these edges here, and you're going to see what painting in shadows does. It starts to immediately start to create this sense of depth once you start adding in these shadows here. So we'll go ahead and add in these shadows along these edges here. This piece right here is a little bit higher up, so why don't we have a deep, darker and more thicker shadow moving away. Same thing here. We'll add shadows here and here. Let's put it all along this edge here. Let's add some shadows here and here. Shadows really do a lot. And in fact, we're just going to do a light paint of shadow upon the whole thing right here like this, just so that there's a little bit of a discrepancy in height. And that's going to look good. So we'll go ahead and add that. And then particularly in here, we'll add a little bit of extra shadow inside of here. And you can see already that the map is starting to pop up. The last thing that we're going to do is maybe add a little bit of what's called ambient occlusion. That means I'm going to take these a thicker shadow like this and create a nice thick black line there. Let's go with, I don't want it to be too thick. About 38 should be good. So we'll add a nice, deep, thick ambient occlusion shadow here. So that way it's very clear that there's height. So we'll add some ambient occlusion. Some ambient occlusion there, here, along here. That looks good. Ambient occlusion all along here. Here, let's add it here. And definitely on the inner walls, you want to add ambient occlusion so that way it looks like there is depth there. So definitely along these outer walls right here and here, all of this should have some form of ambient occlusion right here, especially here with the rubble right here. There we go. That looks good. And here as well, you want to have a little bit of shadow here. There we go. So now you can see that it kind of pops out a little bit more by adding in that shadow. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and take a step back and just see where it looks. Yeah, it looks good. Let's go ahead and add in some filters. We got 5 minutes left. So let's add in some filters. The most obvious ones that I would recommend are things like clarity, red sky, and a vignette. We'll start with red sky first. The reason why I recommend red sky is because you already have browns in here. Notice that we have our dry grass, our dirt, our wood. All of those stamps have some reds in it. And what red sky will do is it's going to bring out those reds. If you bring it all the way up, it's a little too much, right? But adding just a little bit here and there really helps to bring out the reds or those browns in there. That becomes very, very helpful. All right. This looks good. Yeah, right about there, red looks good. The other one is to add a vignette. And that way a vignette can frame the structure. So if I bring this vignette up like this, and I'm going to change the blend mode to overlay because I want to cause a little bit of burning on the edge. See how those edges are burning a little bit? And I kind of like that, but I don't like the amount that it's doing. So if I just slightly bring up the opacity just a little bit, I'll get some nice dark corners there, and that will help to frame. And the next one I'll add is a spotlight, and that will add a little bit of light to the center of it. See, and that will kind of help the walls to pop out a little bit more. So see what happens when I don't add a spotlight, and see what adding a spotlight does. It helps to kind of create the walls to pop out a little bit more. So that's helpful. And then the last thing I recommend is good old paper. And the reason why I recommend that is because it's a ruin, right? Things are dilapidated, it's a mess, it's dirty, it's mucky, it's been introduced to the elements. So having a filter that's going to add extra artifacts and make the map look a little busier is nice. So you'll see here that when I add this filter, it doesn't have the right blend mode. If I just switch over to overlay and then it adds it, let me turn it off so you can see what I mean. See what happens when I add a little bit of that old paper. It helps to add a little bit more grime, a little bit more dirt, and it makes it kind of what you would expect, right? It's a ruin. There's going to be dirt and everything. So it's very, very helpful to add in that bit. So I'm going to quickly save it, and then we're going to go over to the time challenge, and we're going to quickly make another one, and we're going to make it a little bit different too. I don't want to make the exact same structure, but I can save this as a separate map. I noticed in chat that someone mentioned, will this map be clonable? Yes, I will make this clonable. I think the Musical Rogue did mention that I made another one. You're welcome to use that one as well. She provided the link in the chat, so thank you for that. But I will make this as a separate map, so that way if you like this one more than that original one, that's fine. So what I'll do is I'll just go save as a clone, and we'll go 15-minute Ruins 2, and we'll let that save. And then what we'll do is it will save the map as a different map, and then that way I'll have that original so people can clone and edit. And now I'll work on this one. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to quickly go over all of my favorites to make sure that everything that I put down is in the favorite, so I don't have to do that doom scroll. Okay. Give me a second here. Let me select every single thing. All that's gone. Let's also select the ruin. That is gone. The other thing I want to do is I want to delete all the top layer stuff. So if I go top layer, erase, make sure it's set to 100% opacity, and just go clear. It should clear everything. And then on top of that, I want to go ahead and put that base brown texture. Okay, oops. Fantasy Battlemaps. Where did my grass go? There it is. Or my dirt. There you go. Dirt. Let's favorite that just in case I need it. Let's go ahead and fill that. Go fill. There we go. And I'm going to leave the filters on because there's no point in turning them off, in my opinion. So that's good. Let me just go over What, did I add anything that didn't get? Nope, that looks good. Oh, well, actually, I did not add in that. So let's make sure to add that in there. Let's also be sure to add that. I think there was a spiral staircase that got added. And you notice that it's not in the recently used, by the way. Interesting, right? This is why you always want to do your prep work. Let's go with this darker one here. I'm going to add that to my favorites. Don't think I added it. Yeah, I didn't. Understandable. There we go. Okay, cool. That works. All right. Give me a moment here to pull up my timer, and we'll get this started. Probably do it in less than 15 minutes. You'd be surprised just how much pre-planning can do for you. It is nuts. Pre-planning is wonderful. It's so incredibly helpful. I can't stress it enough. Okay, give me a second here. I'm trying to find my clock here. Here we go. 15 minutes. Here we go. All right, let's do it. All right, we'll get the shape started. Remember that simple trick? Just kind of pick a shape that looks good. Snap to grid. I got this on. Okay, let's go with a rectangle. That looks good. Okay, let's actually put the circular staircase right here in this corner. My mistake. Is this it? Nope. There we go. Put the circular staircase there. Oopsie, I don't have merge shape on. Mistake. Let's go there. Okay, let's go add a pop out. Let's make the pop out different this time. Let's maybe put it right here instead. In fact, we'll put another pop out right here like that too. There we go. That looks good. And let's maybe make the interior a bit different this time. I'm not going to make it exactly the same. So what I'll do is I'll just make a different interior this time. So we'll maybe add in some rooms and stuff. That last one was kind of a bizarre building, honestly. So we'll fix that. Let's go ahead and add in here. We'll add in 2 rooms right there. That looks good. Okay, let's go ahead now and we'll break it all up. So let's go ahead and create some doors for these rooms. Let's kind of break this entire wall right here. Let's also break up a corner. Here we go. Let's go with this one right here. Oopsie, I keep using the wrong tools here. It has been way too long of a day. Okay, let's break up that corner. Let's go ahead and break off this piece right here like that. Let's go ahead and break open this piece right here. That looks good. And then maybe another smaller piece right there. That looks good. Something entirely different. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Okay, that looks good. Let's go ahead and create group. Let's go ahead and add in those various colors, actually. Let's do that. Quickly add in this. I want to show height variation. I forgot to do that, so let's go ahead and throw that in. Some height variation stuff. That looks good. Let's put another one in right here like this. Like this. There we go. I want to make sure that I have that nice height variation. It looks more interesting when you have that. There we go. Another one right here. There we go. That looks good. So now we have some nice pieces there. Okay, let's go ahead and create group. I'm going to call it ruin. See, in all caps apparently. Okay, let's go ahead and rotate. Let's go ahead and place it down. There we go. Okay. Let's go move on to texturing. It's very easy to click that X button, by the way, I've noticed. Okay, oopsie, keep knocking things over here. Let's go with about 46. Play a little game of operation here. There we go. Oh, I can also turn the grid off. It just doesn't look good, so let's remove that. And I'm going to make sure that this map that I'm making right here, I generally will always time-lapse it, so expect time-lapses. I know some of you don't have the time for a 1-hour stream, and of course, you're just too busy with life. I totally understand. Work, kids, school, all of that stuff, so totally understandable. So again, we will be making sure that tons of this stuff is turned into a time-lapse so that you can easily just slow down the video. Just make sure to turn off the music because it's probably going to sound a little funky listening to it at a slowed down playback speed. Just a heads up there. I don't even want to know how weird my voice sounds in a slow speed back. Anyway, so playback. Okay, that looks good. Oh, keep going. We'll add in some more of this stuff here. It looks good. Cool. Moving so quickly. Ooh, oh, actually, already 4 minutes has already gone by. It's not moving quickly. I need to move quickly. I need to move quickly. Okay, let's add a little road that kind of leads out here. Maybe even a little path that kind of leads out to there as well. That looks good. Okay, let's see here. Let's go ahead and add that cracked ground texture. We're moving, we're moving. Okay, there we go. Yeah, there's some cracked ground right here would be good. Here would be good. Here would be good. There we go. Okay. All right. Okay, let's keep going. Let's go add the rubble part. There we go. Cool. Oopsie, am I on the right layer? Oh yeah, I think it's working right. Okay, let's bring that contrast down just a little bit. There we go. Let's go ahead and add in all our rubble segments. Let's connect those two. Let's use a smaller one maybe. Let's use a big one for this one. There we go. Okay, let's put a little bit of a wall right there. Here, and there was a little bit of a collapse right here as well. There we go. That looks good. Yep. That looks good. Great. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and paint in. Oops, I did not add in that rubble texture as a favorite. Ooh. Okay. Let's go ahead and throw in the rubble now. There you go. All in this texture here. That looks good. Okay, yeah, that's looking good. I didn't even put a focal point inside of the last map too, by the way. Silly me. Well, just one of those days, I guess. All right, let's go ahead and add in this. There we go, add in that. Go, we're gonna add in that pillar there. There we go, this is that supporting pillar. That looks good. Okay, now to add in the wooden rubble. I know I favorited that one. All right, let's go ahead and let's put it right there by the staircase. It looked like it kind of collapsed there. Let's add another big one like let's put it right against here. I think that looks good. And there's a smaller one right here. We can put that right there. There we go. So now you have a nice balance. And of course, I want to bring the brightness down. Those are particularly bright. So just bringing that brightness down really helps to bring out that. That looks good. Okay, cool. Where are we at for time? Cool. Plenty of time. We're doing great. All right. Let's go ahead and add in the focal point, which I neglected to do the first time. So we'll put in a focal point. Let's add a little bit of let's say right here is a good spot to add in maybe a little camp spot. We'll go ahead and throw in a little here. Let's go throw in maybe a little bedroll piece right here. We'll throw in this. There we go. So now we have that focal point. Thank goodness. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure I got that. Let's go ahead and do our shading, top layer. Okay, this is my favorite part right here is the shading. I absolutely love doing the shading bit. That stuff is fun. You really can just see how much the map really begins to pop out when you start adding in your shadows. Find it very, 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 very helpful. Okay, looks good. Let's add in some here. Good shadows here. Let's definitely add them inside of here as well. Looks good. There we go. And let's go ahead and do a little bit on the sides. Like this. That way I can get some nice an inclusion there. Definitely right here. I want to show that that wall is separate. Same thing here. We got to add some good ambient occlusion all along here. Okay, looks good. Looking good. All right, yeah. All right, 6 minutes left. Cool. We've got time. Looking good so far. You know what? Let's go ahead and let's switch it out. Let's maybe add in a torch. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. Let's keep that, but let's put a torch down right here like that, and then we can add in our light source because I think that would be a nice touch. Let's put a yellow or an orangish one right where the flame of the torch is, and then I'll take another yellow one, put that up a layer, and put that on top like that. There we go. And it's a little too bright, so I'll just bring the opacity down just a little bit, and then I have a little bit of lighting inside right there. And you can see how much lighting plays a role in making a map more interesting, right? Light and shadow is just the way to go about doing it. Sorry about that. Okay. Yes, you could totally darken stamps using the lighten or using the brightness settings. Okay, 5 minutes. We got tons of time still. Let's keep adding in more stuff. All right, we're moving right along. We're doing good. Okay, let's go ahead and add some of those stumps in there. Let's add in a bunch right there. Some in this corner here. Let's put one over there. That looks good. Cool little trick you can do too is you can do the shadows of the trees by putting, oopsie, I think the stump is on the wrong layer. Let me select all these from the set, bring it down a layer. Cool little trick here. I know a lot of you know this one. I use this one a lot, but you can use the stump, use this tree as a shadow itself, bring the brightness all the way down, bring the shadow off, and then bring the opacity down to about 20 or 30, whichever way you really want it. And then you can place that just right over the stumps if you wanted to have like a tree showing up. Let's actually put them in the right layer, my mistake. Select all from the set, go up. There we go. And let's make them a little bit smaller and bring the opacity down just a little bit. So you can always show the shadows of trees if you just put a stump and then a tree stamp on top of that. And that way you can still see what your players are doing underneath, because I find that very helpful. Let's just keep adding more stuff here. We need to add in a whole bunch more details, like maybe we can put a little bit of a stump like right here. I'll put it so it's half in the shadow and half outside of the shadow. That would look good. Let's maybe put like a stump that, or put one that's like maybe holding over the, going over the edge like this. So it looks like there's a little bit of depth in there. I think that's a good choice. And then we definitely want to add some of these smaller wooden pieces right here as well, like we did before. So we'll bring that down. So go ahead and just place a bunch of these. Maybe bring the size up a little bit more. Bring the brightness down just a little bit more. There we go. And just remember, you place them right wherever you see wooden pieces. Let's have some leaning up against the wall. Have some up on the staircase like this as well. Let's maybe have a couple more leaning against this wall. There we go. Yeah, you could paint in the stump with all black too. That would also look good, just to show that it's a negative space, right? You can't really see the wooden part of the stump right here. You would have to paint that black. You could do that too. I find that terribly helpful. Okay, yeah, lots of space here. Things are coming together. We got a nice focal point. We got that, but we got to add in our vines, right? Let's throw in some vines. We're almost there. We still got 3 minutes and 23 seconds, so we are doing great for time. We were able to get it done. See, it's amazing what a little bit of pre-planning, like picking your stamps in advance, can really, really do. Even if you're not interested in the 5-minute or the 15-minute challenges, that's okay. You still would like to make maps faster than slower, right? You want to increase your productivity. You want to be able to make them in a more timely fashion without skimping on quality, of course, right? But making your process more effective is helpful, and making better maps faster. So I've just noticed that my productivity level goes up much higher when I'm able to pick a process that doesn't slow me down, that actually speeds it up, makes me more efficient. So that really is quite helpful. Ooh, I don't want to save yet because we still got 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So we can just start adding a bunch more stuff. I think dry grass, I think, was one of them. We want to get some of that contrasts out, right? Because we don't have those contrasts. So let's bring that. Let's maybe create a little path of dry grass that goes through here like this. So you get that nice dry grass feel. Let's go ahead and put some in here. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, I like that. Adding in some of that dry grass in there, and then we can maybe have some go off to the side, like maybe there's a little path. People kind of walked over like this. We'll create a little bit of dry grass over here. Oopsie, I'm set to top layer. Oh, my mistake. No wonder it's not working. My mistake. I'll have to go back to my history and remove all that. That's awesome. There we go. Now it's set to BG. I was kind of wondering why it was looking so odd. I'm like, what is happening here? Now I know. There we go. Okay, cool. Got that dry grass going. Yeah, some broken stuff is a great idea. I was actually just about to suggest that, so I'm glad that you said that. There's broken chairs and benches. All of those work great. Some kind of furniture. If you wanted to show that it's, like maybe it fell apart recently, you could always show stuff like that. So I think there's like broken benches, there's broken bookshelves. I mean, you could have like a broken bookshelf right here. nice nestled nicely in this corner right here. You could add in like a broken bench inside of here somewhere. Like maybe it's in this corner right here. There's a nice broken bench. Maybe you want to throw in some broken, like a broken chest. You can put that in that, maybe in this little corner right here. That might look good. And then you can throw in all kinds of broken chairs and stuff as well. Like here's a broken market, like a barrel. I think that's a good choice. Let's maybe have another one like right here, broken up right there. Let's see, I'm at 36 seconds, so I am almost done here. I have to stop fairly soon. Oh, there's a pile of junk right here. I think that might be a good choice too. In fact, we can put that outside somewhere so that way there's like maybe a little something on the outside that can be interacted with. So maybe your players, before they walk inside, they hide behind this and can have an encounter with somebody. So it's like not a bad idea. Just throwing in a little one outside piece that people can kind of interact with. It's always good to add those kind of things. Yeah, so all the furniture, all of that stuff. So, but I think you guys got the overall process and how exactly it works, right? It's just pre-planning, picking the stamps that you want to use. It's okay if you realize that you have extra time. Just go through the catalog. The secret to navigating the catalog is about tags, right? If you know that you're making a ruin, type in ruin, right? And you'll probably get some ruined things, right? Rubble is a great thing. It's always about figuring out the tags. And I know that a lot of people kind of struggle with the catalog because there's just so much art. You have to doom scroll through it. So I'm kind of an exception because I'm just really familiar with the tool. And so I kind of know where everything is. That kind of plays a role in how I'm able to make maps really quickly. For those of you who are familiar with the catalog, you'll probably notice that as well. The more that you become familiar with the tool, the more and more you're aware what assets are there and you know what to place. So if you do a little bit of pre-planning, if you make sure that the scale is a scale that's workable within the time frame that you're working with, and if you go ahead and favorite all of your stamps, and then you can use quick tricks to make depth, like using the top layer, using shadows. Just remember to don't use the overlay blend mode, use the darken blend mode. It needs to be a blend mode. You can't have it set to normal because once you start adding in a color filter, it will not affect the top layer. Now this will change with 2.0. Just to let you know, when 2.0 comes out, you'll be able to put a layer anywhere that you want, completely customizable, very much like Photoshop. You can click, hold a layer, you can rename it, you can move it, you can copy a layer, all of these things. So it's going to be very, very helpful when 2.0 comes out. You'll have way more control and therefore mastery over the editor with those kind of features. So I'm looking forward to that, and there'll be tons of videos when 2.0 comes out that's going to cover how to use the tool, all the different tools, all of those things. So appreciate all of you and waiting for the 2.0 release. Thank you. We appreciate your patience. All right, everybody. I hope you found this helpful. I hope you all have a very long and well-rested weekend. It has been quite a week, so I appreciate all of you very much. Please stay safe and healthy, and merry map making. All right, everybody. I will see you all next week. Take care, everyone. Bye, everybody.